Number 10. Pliny the Elder. Do you believe in mermaids? You'd be surprised how many people do. The first account of a mermaid sighting came from the 1st century AD. It all started with a naturalist named Pliny the Elder. Pliny the Elder was born in either 23 or 24 AD as Gaius Plinius Secundus. He studied law in Rome, served in the military, then traveled through much of the old Roman Empire and eventually rose to become a commander. In his later years, Pliny the Elder traveled around the world and wrote natural history, trying to understand as much of the natural world around him as possible. And this was when he allegedly discovered a mermaid. It was in Western Europe that Pliny the Elder heard whispers of a human-like creature with fish scales found washed up on the beaches. He began to write factual accounts of mermaids. A lot of what we understand about mermaids today actually comes from Pliny the Elder, who was considered to be a serious naturalist. He wrote accounts of mermaids climbing onto ships and sinking them, of mermaids washing up on the shore, and of one particularly spooky mermaid that was spotted in Gaul, which is modern France. Unfortunately, none of the sightings have ever actually been substantiated. But what's really strange is that the mermaid is the only mythical creature that Pliny the Elder ever wrote of in his books on the natural world, making you wonder why he thought mermaids were real if he actually hadn't seen one. Number 9. The 1967 Main Island Mermaid. It was 1967 in British Columbia, Canada. There were passengers on board a ferry traveling through Active Pass near Main Island who witnessed a mermaid. This sighting was shared by several witnesses who claimed to have seen a mermaid eating a salmon and sitting on a rock. According to a report in the Daily Colonist that came out the day after the sighting, witnesses saw a woman with blonde hair, no top on her body, and the tail of a beautiful fish, and they saw her taking a bite out of a salmon and eating it raw. Witnesses claim that she had the lower body of either a fish or a porpoise, which matches pretty well with what a mermaid should look like. Someone even managed to get a photograph of the mermaid, though there have been disputes as to just how real this picture is. The woman in the photo is obviously a mermaid, and is actually the only relatively legitimate photo of a mermaid that's ever been taken. After the event, the Colonist newspaper offered a reward of $25,000 for anyone who could capture the mermaid. Unfortunately, this mermaid was never captured, nor was she ever seen again. What would somebody do with a mermaid if they captured it anyway? Number 8. The Israeli Mermaid. The most recent mermaid sighting came from the small Israeli town of Kiryat Yam in 2011. A mermaid that witnesses said looked like a fish mixed with a young girl began to appear at sunset, performing tricks before disappearing into the surf. Was it the real-life Ariel? Curious about what is happening on dry land? According to one eyewitness, the mermaid was lying in the sand in a weird way at first, and the man and his friends simply thought it was a woman. But when they approached, she jumped into the water and disappeared. Every person present agreed that she had a tail. Naturally, the town was ecstatic to have their very own mermaid. The government offered a reward of $1 million for the first person to get a real photograph of the creature. But just like in Canada, almost 50 years earlier, not a single person managed to snap a photograph of the mermaid. It just wasn't happening. Some experts then claimed the mermaid was either a hoax or an optical illusion. Maybe the power of suggestion coerced tourists into believing they saw a mermaid when what they probably saw was nothing at all. In the end, the myth of the Israeli mermaid lost traction and everyone forgot about it. Do you think the Israeli Ariel is still out there? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to give this video a like and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Number 7. The Ugly Mermaid. The Fiji mermaid was advertised in the 1840s as a true mermaid from South America. It was initially displayed at a concert hall in New York City in the summer of 1842. People walking into the exhibition thought they were going to come face to face with a beautiful woman who had the tail of a fish or a dolphin. What they witnessed instead was a grotesque monstrosity with hair sprouting out of its bony head, its lips pulled back, and its sharp teeth threatening and disturbing. The mermaid had a skeletal torso with a scary fish-like body and scales. The stunted creature was only about 3 feet, To understand why this disgusting monster was so fascinating in the 1800s, we first need to look at why it was called the Fiji Mermaid. Back in the 1800s, Americans thought Fiji was a place filled with savagery and cannibals, and even goblins and apparently mermaids. This was a time when monsters could still exist, and most people were easily fooled into thinking they did. Museum entrepreneur P.T. Barnum used this to his advantage and made a fortune off displaying the Fiji Mermaid. But of course, this was not a real mermaid. It probably came from Japan in the 17th century. It has been used as a sideshow attraction for almost 200 years. It had been put on display in London in 1822, but was quickly removed when a trusted surgeon declared the mermaid was nothing more than an orangutan cut in half with its body stitched onto a fish. But the Americans didn't care, and they went on ogling over the mermaid until the 1860s. Number 6. John Smith and the Mermaid. John Smith was one of the earliest people to claim he saw a mermaid. Yes, this is the same John Smith known for his daring rescue of Pocahontas. But before Pocahontas, John Smith was a sailor in the Caribbean. He allegedly had an encounter with a mermaid in 1614, describing the creature in his own words as being a woman with green hair that he saw swimming in the water and that was by no means unattractive. When John saw the woman turn away and dive below the waves, he noticed she had a fishtail and was actually a mermaid. According to the Smithsonian Magazine, that's exactly how the story of John Smith and the mermaid went. But it's possible that John Smith never actually saw the mermaid. Historian Von Scribner has recently argued that John Smith never recorded the mermaid encounter himself, and that it was written at a different time by a different person. Here's where the evidence comes from. All historians agree that John Smith was not actually in the Caribbean waters in 1614. He was there in 1607, and yet every story of him meeting a mermaid is from 1614. The dates just don't add up. Number 5. Mermaid Manatees. Mermaids are real. Unfortunately, they may not be exactly how we picture them. The truth is that mermaids may actually be sea cows, also known as manatees. When Christopher Columbus got in his boat and set out in 1492, he recorded one of the first mermaid sightings in the New World. He claimed that he saw a very ugly woman swimming through the water, slightly overweight and with a big tail. What Christopher Columbus actually saw was probably a manatee. No wonder he thought the mermaid was ugly. Manatees don't look anything like human women. They don't look like human anything. However, if Christopher Columbus was a bit exhausted from standing on a boat all day, if it was a little rainy outside, and if he was feeling a little lonely, there is a pretty good chance he confused a manatee with a person, thus single-handedly starting the myth of the mermaid in North America. What do you think? Do you think you could confuse a manatee with a mermaid? Number 4. The Exeter Mermaid. There is a legendary tale from England in which a mermaid was discovered in the waters of Exeter. The story comes from 1737, when fishermen drew in a net and discovered a creature shaped an awful lot like a human. It had 2 legs and leaped out of their net and then ran away. But this mermaid was a bit different than what you typically imagine. Instead of having a fish tail, the mermaid had webbed feet like a duck. It also wasn't female. Instead, it was a merman. Merman. Zoolander, anyone? The fishermen also claimed that it had a tail coming out of its rear and that it was only about 4 feet or 1.2 meters in height. A similar creature was then spotted in 1823 in the exact same area. It was described as having 2 legs with animal features. This time the creature was apparently knocked down and killed by the confused onlookers, who then just disposed of the body. Nonetheless, there has been no archaeological evidence of a creature matching the description found in the area. All we have is a legend passed down over 200 years. Number 3. Japanese mermaids. The stories of mermaids in Japan are quite fascinating and very different from other places in the world. In Japan, mermaids are not beautiful women who bewitch sailors. Instead, they are fishy monsters with golden scales, the mouth of a monkey, sharp teeth, and a voice like a screeching bird. Oh, and they have delicious flesh for eating. Plus, anyone who eats a Japanese mermaid is said to live for an exceptionally long time. In Japan, a mermaid is known as a niño, which translates roughly to human fish. When a niño is caught, it is supposed to bring misfortune and storms. That's why most fishermen throw the niño back into the water whenever they accidentally catch them. It was also once believed that if a niño washed ashore, it would be an omen of calamity or war. There is a Japanese legend that tells a tale of how the mermaid first appeared at Lake Biwa to Prince Shotoku. When the prince was on the brink of death, the mermaid told him a sad story. Apparently, the creature was once a fisherman who sailed through prohibited waters. As punishment, she turned into a hideous animal. The niño, wanting to atone for her transgression, asked the prince to build a temple to display her remains as an example of the sacredness of life, and he did. The temple is known as the Tenshou Kyosha Shrine. What's really fascinating about Japanese mermaids is that they could actually be real creatures. It's not that far-fetched to think that there's some kind of fish-like monkey monster living in the ocean, and that the Japanese made up stories about it. I mean, look at all the other bizarre-looking fish that have been captured or seen in the planet's oceans. Though of course there has never been a niño found in modern times. Number 2. South Africa's mermaid. In 2008, the legendary South African mermaid, a beast known as the caiman, was spotted near a small village. The residents of this village have believed in the creature for generations. This most modern sighting even worked to convince the most skeptical residents that the monster is indeed real. The sighting happened when a group of friends was spending their day relaxing next to the river. Somebody heard a disturbing sound, all the friends looked over, and that was when they saw the figure of a pale white woman with long black hair splashing violently in the water. Somebody ran into the water to save the woman, thinking she was in trouble, but they stopped when they witnessed a red glow in the woman's eyes. They realized it was the legendary caiman, a monster so horrible that it eats the flesh of children. Then the group ran away. Now the villagers believe the caiman was trying to lure the young friends into the river to kill them. Experts are obviously skeptical about the sighting, but those in the area know that it's something the villagers take very seriously. It's even something they greatly consider when going anywhere near the water. Number 1. The Hawaiian mermaid. Just a few years ago, reports of a dead mermaid being found at a beach in Hawaii set the internet ablaze. The initial reports claimed that the mermaid's body was found, but she had already passed away. The photographs that surfaced online were absolutely convincing. It really did look like a dead mermaid. She had fish-like skin, a human face, blonde hair, and a mermaid tail. Nobody knew just where this mermaid had come from or how she even existed in the first place. But then reports started coming in that the same mermaid was found in other places around the world, including Egypt. It became a little suspicious. The creature with a fish tail and human head was starting to look like a hoax. And as it turned out, it absolutely was a hoax. The mermaid body was actually crafted by the artist Juan Cabana. It was a completely fake sculpture made to look like a true mermaid, but it was just a prop. One that had actually been used in the Pirates of the Caribbean movie. As far as we know, there has never actually been a mermaid corpse found anywhere on Earth at any point in history. Thanks for watching. Do you believe any of these mermaid stories? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos like these. See you next time. Bye-bye.